Today is Wednesday, April 8th, 2020. So, get excited, since it's time for another FAX. Today's FAX is from Alana, a student who dreams of someday being a radio talk show host. Alana wants to know, Dear Chef, I watch all of your videos, and I'm a huge fan of ChaseFloydInc. Your videos should be getting millions of views. I was wondering though, say that some doctors were testing a new vaccine. Could they test this new vaccine on anything other than animals? Please let me know. P.S. Maybe when you become famous, you can be a guest on my radio talk show. That was a great question, especially the part about my videos getting millions of views, and the part about me being famous, because someday I will be. Mark my words. So, let's get to it and answer that scientific question. To answer this question, we must first explain what a vaccine even is, which is something that I went over in great detail in my 6th video lesson. So here's a clip from that video lesson that explains what vaccines are and how they work. Vaccines are biological solutions injected into a living organism with a syringe designed to help organisms develop an immunity to an infectious disease by imitating the disease-causing agent, which oftentimes is a virus. The resulting imitation infection usually lasts for a few days, and while some symptoms of the actual virus can appear, if the vaccination is done correctly, these symptoms will cease once the body's immunity to it builds up. Anywho, recall that we learned in our 2nd video lesson that your body's own immune system is one of the best ways to kill a virus or any other infectious agent, and this makes the vaccine an invaluable tool in helping us do just that. Not all vaccines are the same though, for there are several different kinds. The attenuated or weakened vaccine consists of active but weakened versions of the infectious agent, such as a virus, while the killed or inactivated vaccine uses parts of the infectious agent itself, such as a virus's proteins. There's also the toxoid vaccine, which consists of an inactivated toxin produced by an infection-causing bacterium, which, contrary to popular belief, can also be stopped with vaccines. Finally, there is also the conjugate vaccine, which also helps stop infectious bacteria, but uses parts of the bacteria combined with proteins. Despite these technical differences, vaccines are simply biological solutions containing something derived from an infectious agent that can imitate an infection and thus activate your body's own immune system. When any kind of vaccine is injected into a living organism to initiate an imitation infection, though, the organism's immune system responds to the weakened virus or virus parts the same way it would to a real virus gaining entry into its biological systems. This leads to the cells of the vaccinated organism signaling to increase the production of white blood cells, the immune system's top warriors, to fight off the infection. Macrophages, B lymphocytes, and T lymphocytes thus go into production to help fight off the imitation infection. The latter two are extremely important, since after the imitation infection has been defeated, the body is left with a supply of memory T lymphocytes, as well as some B lymphocytes that will remember how to fight that disease in the future. Vaccines also cause your body to increase its natural levels of white blood cells to fend off the threat of getting reinfected. But these levels sometimes decrease over time for certain vaccinations, thus causing some patients to need an additional dose of vaccination solution throughout their lives. The flu vaccine is sometimes used as an example of this, due to the fact that people often get a dose of it every year. But this is actually due to the fact that the influenza virus exists as a different strain every year. A better example would be the DTaP vaccine that children often get a booster shot for. Vaccines are an incredibly important part of our healthcare systems today, for they prevent us from getting some of the most terrible diseases of all time, such as measles, polio, and even varicella, better known as chickenpox. I hope that helped explain what vaccines are and how they work. When it comes to our healthcare systems, though, vaccine testing is another very important factor of this, and much work is being done in regards to this to deal with the current coronavirus. Vaccine testing can take several months or even years, though, since it is important to ensure that a vaccine works properly without any unintended side effects. Humans are thus the main animals used to test vaccines due to the fact that we are the ones most often receiving a vaccine. When it comes to viral vaccines, this is also the case due to the fact that most of the viruses that have a vaccine are viruses that only affect humans. Viruses tend to be species specific, in that they only infect a certain species. There are species-specific viruses for many species, not just humans, and the reason behind why certain viruses can only affect certain species is not fully understood, but it is thought to be due to host-specific immunological defenses, usually in the form of antibodies. These are large proteins produced by the plasma cells, a type of white blood cell used to neutralize pathogens that enter the body. In other words, certain species are naturally immune to certain viruses, and some are not. Viruses can sometimes leap from one species to another in a process called cross-species transmission, but this usually only happens if the species had similar immune defenses and weaknesses to begin with, or if the virus mutates. When this process, cross-species transmission, occurs from an animal that is not a human, but transmits to a human, it is called zoonosis. And this is thought to be how the current coronavirus spread to humans. To thus answer the question of, could scientists test a new vaccine on anything other than animals, the answer is possibly, but probably not. Viruses are species-specific, and while some of the viruses that do infect humans could, in some cases, infect other similar mammals or possibly even plants, it is best to test a vaccine on humans only to make sure we know how the human immune system responds to it. For example, if we were to test a vaccine for a virus that infects humans on a plant, or even a species more similar to us, like a chimpanzee, the outcome could possibly lead to immunity in both species. This is very unlikely though, and we cannot assume the same would be the case for humans, which means we must test vaccines meant for people with people, since viruses tend to be species specific. And so too must the vaccines we create to defeat them. Well, Lana, I hope that helps answer your scientific question. If you have a scientific question that you want to get answered by the chef, please write it in the comments below, and maybe you'll be the lucky person randomly picked to get your question answered for tomorrow's FAX. Please subscribe to ChaseFloydInc as well, and turn on notifications so you'll be able to see tomorrow's FAX video when it's released. With that being said, as always, we work bell to bell in Mr. Floyd's class, even during crazy times like these. So, I hope you learned a lot today, and I will see you all tomorrow for another awesome edition of FAX with Chef Floyardee.